I am not a domain expert in anything. I'm just here to talk about fear. And I'll start with a story. In 1853, a man named Elisha Otis stepped into an elevator cage suspended several stories above a crowd of onlookers down below. And as soon as he did, he instructed his assistant to cut the only rope that was holding up that cage. Now the spectators gasped. They were certain that they were about to see a man fall to his death. But he didn't. He didn't fall. A safety brake caught the cage and stopped it. Spectators exhaled. Great relief. For Otis, what he did in that frightening but carefully orchestrated moment was something powerful. He didn't just demonstrate the safety of a mechanism. He changed what people were willing to believe was safe. He changed what they were willing to step into. In that moment, fear, met with truth, became trust. And within a generation, elevators were everywhere. Now, today, there are some of us, I included, who have a similar sort of fear of technology and where it's going. Artificial intelligence and robotics are reshaping our world at a speed that's not just confusing, but it's frightening. What do we know about robots? Well, we've seen the movie, and we know that they'll be back. And when it comes to artificial intelligence, well, a lot of us have seen the movie 2001. And we remember that scary, sort of terrifying moment when the human astronauts came to understand that artificial intelligence had taken over their lives, that suddenly it was ruling them. Now, the fear that people have of new technologies isn't something, it isn't something new, and it's entirely understandable. Now, we're not all in a panic every day, but at the same time, there is a kind of a dull ache that exists in a lot of us. What's going to happen to me? When is my job going to go away? These technologies are not like previous innovations. They don't just change one industry or one corner of our lives. They have the capacity to change everything. How we work, how we learn, how we even understand ourselves, how we make decisions. And when there's a technology that can change everything, we fear it. It's not weakness. We've seen it at every technological point of change going back over history. People were afraid of elevators. People were afraid of commercial aviation. Those planes could drop out of the sky. Every one of those fears was met with the same antidotes: truth, facts, understanding. But it's different this time. This time, the scope, the scale, the speed of change is so great that the gap between what's happening and public understanding of it is wider than it has ever been. And that gap at the moment is not being filled with facts. It's being filled with fear, with misinformation. And maybe that's the real danger here. Not so much the technology, but the information vacuum that surrounds it. Now, for a moment, instead of looking forward 250 years, let's take a minute and look back 250 years. 250 years ago, people not very far from where we are right now faced a different kind of fear. A fear of rule from abroad, a fear of rule from thousands of miles away, a government in which they had no voice, no representation, no recourse. They believed that something profound had to change, and they had to do it. They called for action. They demanded freedom, and they put that demand in writing. And they did it in a nice, clear way that any citizen could understand and easily rally around it. and along with colleagues from some other colonies, they wrote a declaration of independence. And it may just be that this is a good time for another declaration. This time not of political independence, but a declaration of fear from technologies that are reshaping our world, that are scary for people. What I'm calling for is the creation of a Boston 250 Consortium for Technology Truth. Consortium for Technology Truth. It's kind of a mouthful, but here's what I'm talking about. What would it be? It would be a consortium that was a collaboration among the extraordinary institutions of higher learning that surround us. There's a lot of them, just to name a few. There's MIT, there's Northeastern University, there's UMass Boston, public university. There's Wentworth Institute of Technology. And there's Harvard with the likes of the Harvard Kennedy School. Each of these already does remarkable, important work in a whole bunch of areas, but they do it in silos. What I'm proposing would have them come together as one body with one shared public mission to give all of us the factual foundation to engage with robotics and artificial intelligence without fear. Now, concretely, what would that look like? What would it do? Well, there would, at the least, be the annual publication of an artificial intelligence literacy report in plain language, not jargon. There'd be open communication forums across the state in which real experts would answer real questions from real people. In short, what it would really be is the trusted source of facts about what these technologies are, what they're not, where the opportunities lie, and where the risks lie. Think of it a little bit as the Minutemen and women of the next 250 years. Not with guns this time, but with facts, with data, and with a body of intelligence that all of us can relate to. Those ideas, honesty, factual reporting, so that the likes of us ordinary citizens understand that's pretty important. But how would all of that happen? Well, sometimes there's no better way to get committed to something than to just get started. Sort of like the people who come to run our marathon in Boston every year. Once they decide to start, they're committed. And what I'd like to have happen here now is have that consortium, that conversation, be a commitment that happens now, here. We have the institutions, we have the expertise, we have the history. And what we have here in Boston for a long time is a tradition of stepping forward when it's needed. Now, to the leaders of our great universities, who are probably not here at the moment, but may hear about this sometime or other, let's begin that conversation, that consortium, now. Not in 5 years, nor after the next strategic plan is approved, but now. Boston led the way 250 years ago. Circumstances were different, the setup was different, but the driving principles were the same. Someone had to lead the way. Let's do it again. Let's have it be us leading the way again, not just in technology, but in humanity. Now, going back to Elisha Otis, when he was confronted with fear, he didn't write an article, a paper about it. He just got in that elevator, cut the cord, and showed the world some truth. When you give people truth, when you meet fear with facts and honesty, when you show people against what is seemingly unknown, what is knowable, well then, remarkable things can happen. Fear becomes a possibility. Paralysis is replaced by possibility. And when that happens, we don't just tolerate the future, we welcome it. Speaking of which, this rascal isn't something to fear. He's the future, asking us to understand it and maybe even enjoy it. Thanks, Robot, and thanks everybody for your very kind attention.